Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Shoni. We are at it again today. We are exploring the Word of God, paying attention to the Word of God. We are feeding the Spirit. And if you have not yet subscribed, hit the subscription button and on the notification bell so that whenever I upload the video, you do get to have some notification of the new video that I upload every time. Wednesday, we have a date. Every Wednesday, we have a date. So let's read the Word of God in the book of Matthew chapter 26 verse 39. This was when Jesus was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "Oh my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as my will, but let your will be done." So we want to continue to dig deeper into this will. My will versus God's will. My will versus God's will. Because really, my will, I still want things to be done my way. But God's will has to be done. And we have spoken to say that I didn't create myself, right? I didn't create myself. God has created me. The life that I live, it was God who breathed his breath on me, and I became alive, and he has sent me. It's unfortunate that I do not know where I come from before I was born here on earth. I don't know how it looked like. But the Bible teaches me that he sends his own people. He said, "I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. I knew about you." Then he ordains you, you go and you get born. And voila, here you are in the earth, in a place where you are staying in. And when you get there, somebody got you there. And in this case, in this context, it is God. God got you there. His will is getting done when you're getting born. But here I am now on my own consciousness. I feel like, but I also want to do what I want. I've seen, as I'm growing up, I've seen this. I've noticed that. I like that one. I also want to do it. Now I want to do my own things, my own will. But I also want to put a little bit of that. Like, now I want to customize things according to how I feel, how I want things done, and have forgotten or lost the way of the one who sent me, whom his will has to be done through me. And that's where we have my will versus God's will. And I'm asking myself a question, and I'm saying, there is the owner of the car and there are passengers. Who amongst these two people, a passenger and the owner of the car, who amongst them puts on the petrol in the car? It is the owner, right? Who pays the ticket of the car? Even if the passenger is the one that is getting driven and in a faster way because they are late to go where they're going, who gets to pay the ticket? It is the owner of the car. So we are looking here at a person who was brought by God into existence, who now wants to do their own will. Can you change the tires of the car that is not yours? Can you buy a Michelin on a car that is not yours? Fortunately, of course, you might not even afford a Michelin because it's not your car. Can you take a car to a service that is not yours? No, the owner is the one that services the car and maintains the car and takes care of the car and makes sure that it is up to the appropriate condition for it to be driven on the road. And here we see God, the author and the finisher of our faith, the owner of a man and a woman, wanting to do his will, but he gets refused access because the person now, they want their will to be done. Now there's a conflict between the will of God and the will of man. The owner wants to put Michelin, the passenger wants to put Bridgestone or Goodyear. Now there is a conflict between the two. But how do you make sure that you get to align? To make sure that you do the will of God and not try to persist and force your will to be done. Because sometimes I think we need to customize it. I want to customize this life. This life, it must have me in it. It must have a little bit of pink. It must have a little bit of fun, you know? Not too much serious is not right. We're trying to customize, to entertain. And I'm looking at the assignment that Noah had to say, I want you to build this ship, and amongst it I want you to take my animals, 2 by 2 of different gender, male and female. And if Noah were to customize, he was gonna say, hey, but I don't like snakes. Snakes, I had read about it that they have actually robbed Eve. I don't like my snakes in this. Snakes do. When the snake was coming in, he was gonna deal with the snake, kill it. You know, we are trying to customize the will of God to be our own will. Whereas you're supposed to allow the will of God to happen how He wants it to happen. You know, we really need to let the will of God happen in our lives, even though we do not understand it. We don't understand why. Because sometimes you may understand, like how Noah has understood the mathematical part of it, but you might not understand why you need to do it precisely the way that God said you must do it. You might want to customize it, you might want to change it, you might want to personalize it and make it yours. But it is the will of God about us. It is not our will. That's why Jesus is saying, is pleading, is praying. Perhaps in his prayer I was not there, but I'm thinking, perhaps in his prayer Jesus was like, but I just want to live a little bit longer. Can you leave me until I become 40? I want to get the 4th floor. Because people, they always say life starts at 40. And the will of God was getting done at that moment when he was 33. Perhaps he felt like it was too young. He had just started ministering. It was his 3rd year ministering. With the 3 years, he felt like perhaps he needed to teach more. He needed to save more. He needed to do more miracles. But it was done. It was time for the will of God about him to be completed at that moment. So imagine that conflict of decision, of ideas. But Lord, I don't want to go now. I don't want to die now. I don't want to suffer now. Please, can you move it a little bit further? And it couldn't. It was time. So, will you really accept the will of God to happen in your life? Or you will persist? Imagine if Jesus had refused and persisted, what could have happened? Remember that conversation that he had and he prayed, and the Bible says his sweats, they turn into blood. Just the sweat. That negotiation was blood in its own. Before he could go and bleed on the cross, the negotiation was blood. Do you want to get there? I would say, let your will be done. Not my will, but your will. I would want you to change the tires of your car. I would want you to service this car. I would want you to really pay the tickets of this car. Because I can't. I'm a passenger. I can't afford myself. I cannot afford to redeem myself. I cannot afford to save myself. I can't afford to take myself from here to there. Do your will. Take me where you want to take me. I am a passenger. You are the driver. That is when we talk about the will of God versus the will of man. Let the will of God prevail. And see you in the next video.